diversification in consumption. And these really are the hallmarks of the economy today. Once this specialization and this diversification kept on happening, we required somebody to manage this medium of exchange, money. The Rothschilds, as we are all familiar, are among the pioneers in creating money, in creating paper, in creating bonds, in creating wealth eventually. If Rothschilds give merely a piece of paper, that's enough. It was bigger than what a government could do. They financed, just as the State Bank came up to finance the wars of Wellesley, the expansionism of Wellesley, where it was conceived during Tipu Sultan's time. Tipu died in the end of the 18th century, and the last day of the year of the century he died. But the bank's idea was carried forward, and it was built in 1806. Similarly, Rothschilds and others, they financed the wars of Britain in those days, 400 years ago. They financed the expeditions, the exploration, the trade. And the Dutch people took over. The Dutch, as you probably are aware, were the greatest bankers. They were the greatest mercantile and maritime people in the world at that time, the superpower. Britain took over subsequently. The Dutch were the first great superpower of the world, largely because of their economic innovation. They were the first ones to have shares. The Dutch East India Company, when it came, was the first company to trade shares in the world. Eventually, we have now the sophisticated instruments and derivatives and all kinds of good things and some stupid things which landed us in the mess as we see today. I've always believed that banking has always two aspects. It's a reconciliation of these two conflicting things. One is the greed. You want to make money. If I invest rightly in the right sector at the right time, I'll make a lot of money. The other is fear. If I invest foolishly, if the sector is in difficulties, then I could lose money. If you're too scared, you'll be out. If you're too adventurous, you'll be out. The challenge is, how do you manage risk? How do you reconcile this greed with fear? And at heart, that is what all banking is about. In recent times, in India and globally, fear is dominating. I've come here to urge you that fear should not be allowed to dominate. While caution is required, fear should not be allowed to dominate. That will be a disaster for a society, particularly for a growing economy. Without money, without a robust banking sector, without a robust financial sector in the larger sense, you cannot have economic growth. You cannot fulfill the potential of a nation. And if you ask me what is the greatest goal for this country today, it is fulfillment of our potential as a nation. As individuals, as a society, as an economy, as a nation. Because we are hopelessly underperforming as a nation. We are way below our potential. I do not know if there is a God, but I believe there is a sin. I believe the greatest sin is unfulfilled potential. If a child is born, nature endowed the child with enormous potential. But if the society does not give that child the opportunity to fulfill her potential, because we do not give that child education and skills and opportunity to grow, then to me, that is the greatest sin. And in India, we have abundant sin of that kind. We probably have the greatest magnitude of sin in the world because we have the greatest unfulfillment of potential in this country. Millions of children, very bright at birth, are denied the opportunity to grow only because the society has not cared to ensure that they have a chance. You in the financial sector can make a significant difference. Certainly others have to do a lot too, but you can make more difference than most others. I ask of you, never forget that. Banking is not merely about your balance sheet. Of course, balance sheet is required. Of course, you have to make a profit. I'm not an idiot who thinks that profit is a bad word. Profit is vital. I did manage several financial institutions and several corporates and government, and I'm happy to tell you each one of them was very profitable. As long as I ran them as very effective and efficient business operations. So that you do good to people does not mean that you do bad to a company. They go together. The company's growth, the bottom line, the profit-making capacity, and the economic growth of society, and fulfilling human potential and helping eliminate poverty, they go together. One cannot be at the cost of the other. So if people tell me that because they're afraid to take risks, they're not able to perform as well as they should, I think it's a very sad situation. We must take risks. What kind of risk is something that's where judgment plays a role. In a market economy, sometimes risk means you lose money. You must cheerfully accept that as long as there is due diligence, as long as there is genuine effort, not every business will succeed. Some businesses will fail. That's the nature of the capitalist economy. If you all want to be risk-free, we will be the cavemen. We will not be what we are today. Mankind is what it is today because we have accepted the challenges. We have taken risks. If you're all risk-averse, we live in a stagnant, decaying society. Risk is not adventurism. True risk is inherent in markets. Risk is what we have to accept. But we have to assess risk. We have to manage risk. What is really all this risk about? ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ ఎక్స్చేంజ్ అనేది వచ్చిందో, ఎప్పుడైతే మార్కెట్స్ వచ్చినాయో, ఎప్పుడైతే కొత్త పద్ధతుల్లో ఉత్పత్తి చేయడం వచ్చిందో, we required tools to make tools. Tools are what the producer uses. But somebody has to produce the tools for the producer to use. Once you made tools, you have saved time. And time saved is prosperity. If you want one single definition of prosperity, it is time saved. If a woman took 3 hours to cook, if a person took 2 hours to carry the pitcher of water, if a farmer took 5 days to harvest his small little plot of land, but if now that time is reduced to 1/5 or 1/10, then that time saved is prosperity. There is no better definition of prosperity. The money is the pays. They don't really mean prosperity. Because merely because you have money, it doesn't give prosperity. Germany had seen phenomenal inflation, if you remember, during the 1920s. That's the reason why Angela Merkel now is leading the world to disaster. That unhappy memory has now made Germans so cautious that they're not doing what is right for Europe and for the rest of the world. And we are all paying the price today. Yes, money in itself is of no consequence. We must be mindful of inflation. Hyperinflation could be devastating to societies. Equally, if we don't do the right thing at the right time, if we don't put liquidity into the market at the right time in the right way, that will be disastrous to societies. That will surely lead to the world to depression. And we still have that risk today, thanks to Germany's pusillanimity. From a banker in a branch office to a corporate office leaders and your board of management to the whole financial sector of the country and to the global financial agencies, if we do not learn this lesson, we will land ourselves in a great crisis. Because there is so much productive potential in this country that is going waste, that is simply untapped. And that means poverty continues unabated. You cannot end poverty by giving doles. You cannot end poverty by loan waivers. You can only end poverty by creating wealth. That means education, healthcare, skills, production and productivity and value addition. And therefore incomes, not doles. Sadly, in this country, the politicians have taken the shortcut because they have no capacity to lead. It's a very cheap thing to simply take away the tax money and put it in people's pockets after plundering a lot and then get vote in return. That's a cheap thing, that's also a dangerous thing. What we require is wealth creation. What we require is end to poverty, not perpetuation of poverty and help to the poor. I'm happy about your corporate social responsibility projects, but don't delude yourselves, they don't end poverty. I don't want anybody to say I'm helping the poor. I want all of us to be able to say I am helping them to actually overcome poverty, not helping the poor. I'm helping them to help themselves. That is the greatest help you can render. Not helping people, helping them to help themselves, helping them to stand on their own feet, helping them to earn incomes, real incomes, because of real wealth created, because of real work done. There are risks, undoubtedly. Just before this meeting commenced, we were discussing. I remember I was in the US. One of my visits, this probably was in 2004. I was astounded to watch some advertisements on television talking about 0, 0, 0. The credit agencies were saying about car loans and things like that, and home loans. They said 0 down payment, 0 interest rate, and 0 repayment in the first year. The moment I saw that, I told many of my friends who were gung-ho about American economy at the time, I told them, you are in serious trouble. Within 3 or 4 years, your country will be down in the dumps. They said, no, why are you saying that? We are doing so well, we are so robust, everything is wonderful. I said, no. An economy that doesn't understand where you're headed, an economy that encourages mindless consumption, that promotes irrational exuberance, an economy that promotes 0, 0, 0 loans is in deep trouble. There is overconsumption, underproduction. There's irrationality in investments, and there's no thrift, and you pay a price. America paid a price, but the rest of the world paid a bigger price. Because America has the reserve currency. America is the last option for all investors in the world because it's a bastion of stability despite financial problems. America survived, but the rest of the world continues to be in deep trouble. But equally, if we shut down our operations, if we say no to everything, that is the worst thing we can do to ourselves. India needs money, money for the right cause. 8 years ago, I was arguing with the Prime Minister, with Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, with many of the top leaders of the country, both in government and in opposition, about the power sector. In 2 respects, how the distribution management in power sector is a mess. And unless we improve distribution, we cannot improve the bottom line. We can therefore not go in for generation. And that will hit the industry. Second, fuel supply, coal. India has abundant coal reserves, but the management of coal is ghastly, disgraceful. Coal India is a disaster. We foolishly nationalized in the 70s the coal industry, and we never really opened it up at the right time. We're paying the price. I do not know if you're aware. Annually, the deficit of coal for the power plants of the country is 100 million tons. 100 million tons. We're making consistently wrong decisions. They listened very politely and courteously, but they did not do what was right for the country. Today, we are paying the price. There's a huge power shortage in the country. And the coal prices globally are shooting up because India is the biggest importer. Australian coal price is shooting up. In Australia and elsewhere now, there is a big political movement to deny India coal because they're worried about environmental impact, etc. If you don't take the right decisions at the right time, don't make the right investment at the right time, the whole nation pays a price, a very huge price. Our power sector and coal sector, both are in doldrums. And even today, if we don't improve them, and that's what the bankers should insist on, it's not enough to look at the interest rates and the monetary policy. I know that the central bank of this country has been doing a remarkable job in very difficult circumstances. Dr. Y.V. Reddy is a personal friend, as is Dr. Subrao. I know them both very, very intimately. They have done and they are doing a good job. But it's not enough to look at the monetary economy. Sometimes you can be actually ultra-conservative in the monetary economy. You can shut down the shutters. You can simply disallow the liquidity because of fear of inflation. But what's more important is the policy environment and the fiscal management. On the one hand, we have to cut down our fiscal deficits, which now run at 7.6% of the GDP if you take the union and state deficits together. And our FRBM goal is about 5.3% by 2015 or so. On the other hand, you're required to put in more investment in the key sectors. You have to manage both these challenges simultaneously. It's possible. It's entirely possible because India has immense potential untapped even today. But unless resources go in the right sector in the right time, and unless we unleash the potential of the citizens of this country by encouraging innovation and competition and choice, we'll be in deep trouble. And as the premier bank of this country, the State Bank of India, you have the greatest responsibility in this because you have to lead from the front. I remember when I was in the Vigilance Advisory Council, there were fears on the part of bankers that, look, there are too many corruption allegations, therefore we are afraid to take decisions. I plead with you, with everybody in the country that matters, if you take a bona fide decision, if you take a decision on merits, in the interest of the country and the economy, even if the decision eventually goes sour and some decisions do go bad, you will never ever be hurt. I'm absolutely certain about that. And if indeed there are going to be problems because of a bona fide decision taken, there are enough of us in government and outside who will fight for you because it's not your battle alone, it's our battle as a country. Never be afraid to take a decision, merely because somebody may question it. It's your integrity, your credibility that's going to be your shield. It's the due diligence and the rationality of the decision. Your fear of decision making and therefore non-decision making cannot be a shield. I would like to see a situation when the people who shirk from decision making are punished, not the people who make decisions. I ask of you, do not go into the shell, because I see too many people in government, in banks, many other institutions are now making it a fine art of not deciding, of allowing fear to dominate. Not even fear about the bank, but fear about your personal careers and lives. We have only one life. Despite all the difficulties, this country today is much better off than it was ever before. There is not one of us here sitting here who would say that 25 years ago your lives were better than today. Is there anybody who will contradict me? There's not one person who will be able to contradict this. We are getting better. There's more technology. There's more money. There's more production. There's more productivity. There's more wealth creation. We need to do much more. Therefore, this fear, this pessimism must yield to a robust optimism, but grounded in reality. Not senseless adventurism, but robust optimism grounded in reality. I ask of you, as a leading bank of this country, to lead in this very vital sector. And if the banks really set their house in order, if the banks do what is right for the country and allow money to flow in sectors which are critical for the country's future, allow employment generation, allow entrepreneurship, allow people to feel that if they are taking genuine risks, they'll be supported, they'll not be harassed, then this country will be better off. Let's not take the easy option. Let's not take the shortcut of simply not deciding anything, not doing anything in order to protect our careers. Because that means we will all go downhill as a country. If India is now witnessing 5.8% growth rate as opposed to 9 or 10% we need to, and we deserve, it's largely because we made bad decisions. Or we made no decisions. We made bad choices, or we refused to choose at all. That's not an option for this country today. Because even today, after some 10-15 years of relatively better growth, where are we as a country? What is our share of global GDP even today? Let's be honest. Out of a $40 trillion, $45 trillion global economy, India's share is of the order of about 1.7 trillion even today. It's not much. And we are 1/6 of mankind. Our legitimate share should be 17% at least. Our share today is just about 2.5%. Yes, it's better than what it was, because at one stage, thanks to the bungling of our leaders, we came down to 1% of the global GDP. In 1991, India's share was a grand 1% of the global GDP. But we need to move far ahead. Look at China. China is already the world's second largest economy. China already accounts for about $6 to $7 trillion economy. And China is certainly going to outstrip the United States in gross production by 2030 or so. It's already the world's largest manufacturer. It's already the world's largest exporter. It's already the world's largest employer. It's already the largest creator of employment in the last 20 years in global history. No country ever created so much employment in such a short span of time. It already witnessed the greatest record growth in global history, 20 years of 10% plus growth rate consistently. And India is in no way inferior to China. They were way behind India 30, 40 years ago. We must stop this dithering. And the banking community must lead from the front. Otherwise, the window of opportunity for India is closing. Please do not rest on your laurels. You all have done great. You all have done wonderfully as a bank, and the banks together as institutions. Yes, we have managed our banking sector better than many countries during crisis time. Yes, regulation of banks, regulation of capital and assets is important, while deregulation of goods and services is necessary. That's the lesson that the world has learned now. But in the name of regulation, if we now constrain ourselves, if we now put a lid on economic growth opportunities, the next generation will suffer, and we'll all pay. Already there is greater crime in urban areas. Already, when you go back home after this meeting is over and the stealth of the dark, we're a little concerned that the chain snatcher may come and harass us or something may happen. The crime is a product of poverty, unfulfilled aspirations. These youngsters are our kids. The kids who should be working, kids who should be learning, kids who should be producing and creating wealth. These kids are now going for crime. There's greater insecurity. And poverty hurts us in 100 other ways. It hurts us because our water supply is polluted because of poverty. It hurts us because there's a mosquito menace causing dengue fever. We have to act not because we are moral people, not because we are pious people, but because we are practical people. You know, you may be a DGM of a State Bank of India in Kolkata or in Hyderabad. You may be a Chief Executive of the State Bank of India. You may be the Prime Minister of India. But the mosquito that bites the neighborhood urchin will still enter your home, because the mosquito does not know that you're a State Bank officer. And the mosquito does not care. Mosquitoes are truly socialist. They'll enter your homes, they'll bite your children and grandchildren, and they'll transmit the dengue virus, for which there's no vaccine. And we're all scared. And looking out for everybody in the country, looking for economic growth and growth opportunities and ending up poverty is about eliminating that mosquito. It is about our own personal, selfish need. There's nothing very grand about it, nothing very noble about it. It's just that we are reconciling our individual need with public good. We're not allowing our personal greed to damage public good. That is the central lesson of building a society. Individual needs and public good, they must go together. Our greed must not swallow public good. There's nothing more important than that. That is the lesson of the past 200 years, ever since the state banks, precursor institutions were created. That's the global lesson. That's the lesson of all mankind. And we have immense opportunity. Wherever I see huge opportunity for this country. Take agriculture. I'll only take one sector for a minute. I do not know if you're aware, while our land mass is only 2.5% of the global land, Our agricultural land is 11% of the global land. They're among the most fertile lands. While Africa has vast lands, there's no culture of agriculture in that country. Whereas India has millennia of agricultural tradition. And if only given opportunity to our farmers, they can produce so much more because we have plentiful sunshine. Today, in our godowns, mostly uncovered, we have more stocks, more food grain stocks stored than the total production in 1947. Our production in 1947 was 52 million tons. The food grain stored in the godowns of Government of India today are 82 million tons. And yet, we're not doing the right thing. We're not exporting when the market price is good globally. We're not going in for value addition. We're not going for the post-harvest technology. We're not going for the whole market chain, compressing market chain and logistics. We're not going for proper storage. We're messing up. The farmer is suffering. The country is suffering. Take this one sector. There's so much we can do in agribusiness. So much we can do to promote wealth and employment and incomes and end poverty. Take any other sector, you can go on and on. And again, if you take agriculture, we actually have greater opportunity than ever before, because for the first time in human history, mankind is going to depend on land both for food and fuel. As the fossil fuel economy is going to be increasingly irrelevant in the next 50 or 100 years, agriculture is going to be the main supplier of fuel in the world. That's the time when we are turning our backs to agriculture, for instance, in this country, because we have no sense of where the future lies. We have no understanding of the opportunities. After things are over, if somebody, a great entrepreneur, comes and does the right thing, produces wealth out of nothing, then we say, he minted money out of it. No. He thought, he worked hard, he took risks, and he made difference to people's lives. You take any sector, you can make a spectacular difference. I ask of you to encourage such innovation, to be in the forefront of such innovation, to see where others cannot see, to aspire what others cannot aspire, to dream big, big for the country, big for your bank, big for the people of this country, this state, this city. We deserve it. We owe it to ourselves. In Sanskrit, there's a beautiful saying, the Upanishad saying, Omkara parivrittam vishvam, sankalpa parimitam drishyam. The tradition says that the whole universe arose from Omkara. It may or may not be true, it may be another version of Big Bang. But if Omkara, if that sound is what pervades the universe, Sankalpa, your capacity to imagine, to innovate, to see, is what limits your imagination. And therefore your capacity to make a difference. If you don't imagine, you cannot act. Sankalpa parimitam drishyam. What I ask of you, what I ask each of us, the Reserve Bank of India, the leaders of government, those in opposition, the citizens of this country, the young people of the country, the farmers, the entrepreneurs, the industrialists, the service providers, the financial markets, everyone.